We have Jennifer Wehner with us here tonight. Jennifer, really appreciate your time. And I'm going to direct everybody to your website because you're really building out a new site there, and you've got a book coming out called The Renaissance Real Estate Agent. So you can find her at renaissancerealestateagent.com. I'll make sure to have that link in the show notes. So head over to reimastermind.net for that, or do a little swipe right on your podcast app and find those links. But Jennifer, really appreciate your time here with us today.
Hey, I'm happy to share and collaborate. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. So, I get a little ribbing for having so many real estate agents on the show, but I mean, there's so much we can learn from each other. And I for some reason, I feel like there's kind of a miss when it comes to like there's some sort of conflict between realtors and real estate investors. And I think there's more for us to learn from each other than anything else. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I mean, gosh, it's I got my start here. I know where you want to start, but collaboration, what you were saying was collaboration's everything. And I know there's a Darwin quote out there. We're going into some Darwinistic times, right? And, it's not the most intelligent man, nor the most capable, but the most collaborative man that ultimately survives. Because say we're sitting here and I can kind of, be visionary and kind of see one maybe step forward, but listening to you, it's like another step forward. And, we bring Janet in and we bring Kyle, all your mentors, and you have a clearer path. You'll be quicker to change because you'll change before you have to change, until changing until you after the fact, which 18 years in the industry, starting out as an investor, coming from nothing, like not a capitalist in my family, it's like losing everything and building it up. Had I had the tribe I had back then, would I really have lost it all? Or would I have hedged my opportunities and, fast track, here we are today in a time where collaboration's never been more accessible. So it's exciting.
So, yeah, well, taking that note, you talk about collaboration, but your book is going to be focused on unlocking the systems for your business. But a big part of that is that collaboration and building a team, right?
It takes a village, right? Like we used to be, like we forget a lot. We forget like our ancestors 100 years ago were starving. We forget that a couple hundred years ago we lived in tribes. We had tribes, and so we have lived this industry, this world, very solo. We're soloists. Now I think, in the last 10 years, we have seen a lot more people collaborating, a lot of business brokerages or models that are based on collaboration or coaching programs. But, now that I experience collaboration at super high level, it's so important to understand who you're collaborating with, who you're getting your wise counsel with. And to me, like life's greatest teacher is experience. So when you're like, you want to go somewhere where somebody has been, like, and they're there and they're willing to give you wise counsel, it's like that. Those are the rooms that you put yourself in. I love to be the dumb person in the room. So, and the conflict, we look at conflict. I think you said there is a conflict between agents and investors. Well, conflict is healthy for every single relationship. Even scientifically, it's healthy. They said for an average couple that if they get into 12 or more arguments a year, it's something like that, that they're doomed. Or 12 or more arguments, I think it's like a month. But if they gotten less than, I think, 6 a month, that their relationship was doomed. So it's like there could be too much or too little, but conflict is healthy. And, even if you're sitting here, doctor and scientist, scientist and artist, don't we all have a lot to learn from each other? But specifically, agent and investor, for sure, because that's how I got my start out. I saved my money, waiting tables for years until I had like $14,000 to buy 2 homes here, coming from Orange County. Because, both of those homes, both of my mortgages was less than my rent of what I paid to rent. Well, I was going to Cal State, whatever, and I was a teen mom, so I supported my daughter. And, it was a lot of hard-earned money I put into investing. What is the American dream? And that's real estate. And really, I feel like that real estate is the last freedom. And if that's the last thing that we can agree on, we do it together. But real estate agents and real estate investments, they go hand in hand. We run Financial Freedom Fridays where we talk about acquisition of real estate. I have 4 team members right now. I run a real estate team, and 4 of them right now actively have their second home in escrow while renting out their first. And my advice, and my daughter right now, my oldest daughter bought a home in 2020. She's made about $200,000 of equity. I said, bad news is you can't rent it out. You can't sell it because of the interest rates. You have to, you take a HELOC and then you could you upgrade your home. So I'm kind of coaching my family, but my great grandma came from Ireland. In 1903 from the British. The British had a genocide going on over there, but literally she came here, had to go through indentured servitude to have the freedom to own real estate that we didn't have where we came from. So, sorry, that was a little long-winded, but I get a little passionate.
No, that was great. I think it's great to hear like where you come from and where you are and where you're going. It really helps other people's envision what this path is for themselves. So one of the things I think is interesting is that you were an investor first and then became a realtor. What made you do that switch or make that addition to your career?
I just saw how they went hand in hand. Why only do one division of the same industry? I do have a title, I have insurance, we have rental portfolios, we work with investors, we've done land and development, and it's also all resale opportunity. And it's really like, I love building too. So I build, and there's like a system to everything. And I've had to sometimes build, tear down, rebuild, and failed more than I've gotten, but it's the systems. There's an art and there's systems to everything. And even before I had my first assistant, I had systems. When we comp properties and we go into investment strategies and we have numbers, what do we have? We have systems. But what real estate is, and what my book talks about more, is how to unlock each person's individual strengths, right? So you master the basics. You want to build, you want to scale, you want to have, multiple streams of income. You want to have generational wealth, legacy, leave kind of money, because the more money you have, the more you can give away. I know as the psychology of money, the way, like where I grew up and my experience was like, money is evil. And I'm like, if without money, we don't have choices. Without money, we don't have freedom. And without money, how much can we help? So with that being said, we are in a renaissance right now. Right now, like we have all the biomarkers that our market is in a shift. Like it's like us getting into a DeLorean and going in back to March of 2005 when we had the first markers of the market shift. And, by like November of 2005, we were in the full market shift, yet it didn't hit the public until 2 years later. Now we're in a completely different set of circumstances. I think we all know, right? We're not like a, subprime for 40,000 homes on the market, 30,000 are vacant. No, there's more demand. And this one thing that we cannot change is the supply. And on the top of it, we're not just in a market shift. Like most agents have ego from not having to go through the 2008 years. But, we right now are both in a market shift. We are in 4 out of the 5 trade wars, the types of wars countries can have, which is interesting. So we live in uncertain economic times. But the industry in itself is changing because real estate is 10 years behind every other industry in the most emotional industry in the world. And we are in a technology revolution right now. That's really is the Renaissance. We've like kind of pioneered to the last freedom here. And now we're pioneering to Mars, right? Elon Musk states 5 years minimum, 10 years maximum. And I want to be the first expansion team on Mars, but seriously, back to Earth. And especially here in Phoenix, we're the proud recipient of every tech company, marketing company. Let's see if our business model works here. I've got $200 million. And we have to level up and see if their model works, work with them, and be able to pivot fast. And, I've learned how to pivot fast from a very young age. we think we flipped 50 homes in 2011 when the market turned around. Sometimes I'd be driving and I would have to pull over to the side of the road and be able to comp a property on the dime. But being the agent I am, like being the artist that I am, I market the crap out of my listings and I get top dollar. And I take a lot of pride in the art and the science of the negotiations. Because when you start out on yourself, you help your daughter buy a house, you help agents, you've helped over a few thousand families. Like negotiating is fun. So and maybe that's the Irish in me, but yeah, that real estate investments, real estate agents, like the time of resting on our laurels and kind of like going off our charm and staying comfortable, like it's just a serious and sober time because winter is here. The Renaissance is here. But 4 out of the last 5 recessions, real estate performs the best. It is going to be a little Darwinistic though, because there are a lot of shady wholesalers out there. There's a lot of agents whose business plans are simply their emails and their text messages. So it's time to step back and begin with the long term in mind, because sometimes we forget the basics, and then building on your niche, on that art. And we know, right? Like we all know that there's more opportunity in a down market than there's ever in an up market. It's just grit. Ready for grit and plan and accountability, and again, wise counsel. And I can't stress that enough, because I wouldn't be here today like if it wasn't for the people that have helped me get here. My mentors, my team, and the haters too. Like I've got to thank them because they put a chip on my shoulder, and and that anger is the closest thing to passion. So
Well, one of the things that I find interesting is that you talked about getting in systems in place, and you had your systems in place before you even had your first assistant.
oh yeah.
That is, I have to point the fact out is that a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, frankly, we just don't think that way, to get those systems in place, and because you get the assistant, and now what do? You really had the forethought of putting systems in place, and so where did you start?
When I was a kid, and I'm not lying, I'm going to go here because sometimes like we forget the magic we had when we were kids and actually how we can apply it today. But, I had insomnia my whole life, and I would build out worlds in my mind, and I could go into those worlds to go to sleep. I was forced to like one of the most boring schools and churches like I could have ever been subjected to. And I used my imagination to get out of it. So there was always systems in my life because I knew me, so like, for instance, like before I even had an assistant, I'm like, oh, I think this was like '03. Like I would have you're going to write the same thing over and over, right? Like, hi, Mr. Seller, congratulations on your escrow, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And you're going to do that for like 30 different types of emails. Well, why would I copy and paste? And I wasn't a tech wizard, and this is '03, but why not put on a Word doc and copy and paste? Here's an ad, copy and paste. Then they had canned responses. Okay, you could just build those in. Oh, we could just put YouTube. I loved YouTube because I could start building YouTube. But when I leveraged right away with an assistant when I didn't know what I was doing 6 months into the business, because I got, calls on, I'm like actually really a lazy person on the inside, trying to find a way to work really hard to be lazy. But like I knew my clients needed service 7 days a week, yet I'm not willing to do it because I do have 4 kids today, 1 kid back then. I do need personal time. I like to have fun. And I don't know how to relax, but I like to try to learn how to relax. I like to learn, basically. But so I got an assistant, but then when the market hit, because at that time I was building luxury homes, I had an assistant, I had a real estate business. I had multifamily, single family, I was young, and like pretty much '08, I torched everything. But when I went to rebuild my team, what I forced myself to do was lock myself into a room for 7 hours. And it was the most boring thing I ever did, but I just screencastify. This is 2009 or 10. And I screencastified everything that like was administratively action plan, just all of the dumb shit that you do. And I had made that list over a week of just like, oh my God, I'm uploading files to this program. Write that stupid thing down. So I made all these videos and had an unlisted list, and we have better systems today. So this is my first system by myself. And I hired a VA. And actually, they were with us for like 7 years until we upgraded, and we have like 4 different VAs now.
Sure.
But
No,
yeah,
that and that's the simplest process to get your processes documented. It's just doing a screen recording of what you're doing, the repetitive nature, and it's just a great easy way to pass on the knowledge.
yeah, and there's numbers in everything. It's like if you know your dollar per hour, and like sometimes you're like sitting here and you're like, oh, I have to write this email, and you're like thinking, oh, maybe this email like should be like updated on the canned response. It's not as nice, and and it should probably screencastify this for my VA, but let me just do this really quick. It'll be faster. And then they say that like, you count that time, like say it's like 4 minutes to themselves or 10 minutes to like make that screencastify. Or maybe it's even worse. Maybe it's 30 minutes and 3 minutes. But like very quickly, you can see that you are doing the same stupid thing, and that the time that you spent doing the same task over that course of time, which like what, 30 days, you'd already like been over the time, and you haven't improved your business at all. So it's like looking at things from a scalable way, and looking at things from a business owner perspective, because we think we should do everything, or like, oh, I don't want to give that up, control issues and all that. But if you went into a restaurant and you saw the person greeting you is also the chef, that's also the busboy and the dishwasher, I think you'd probably be a little nervous, right?
No, that makes a lot of sense. As entrepreneurs too, like you mentioned, we have a hard time letting things go. But I've brought this up a couple times on the show that we've kind of romanticized the concept of the hustle and the grind, and we talk about making a living and that generational wealth and the like. But what we're really trying to do is what you mentioned earlier, is to buy some time back. But we find ourselves busy with things that
Busy.
we need to yeah we a good example is, and I keep bringing this up, is I ran into somebody not too long ago, and they still hadn't gotten their first property under contract, and I said, oh, so but they were so busy. Well, what have you been working on? And it turned out that they were working on their logo, the next mailing, a few other things, and they weren't actually getting anything mailed out. They weren't actually making those phone calls. They weren't actually doing those things that actually would generate or take those steps towards their first property under contract. They're busy but not productive.
Yeah, I hear busy a lot. And I think we just sometimes like language is getting to the point where we need to like, sometimes it is back to the basics, but sometimes this is like why, or like, busy has gotten very like watered down. And, time is our biggest commodity. And what we are all commodity dealers, even in relationships, if you've heard of the 5 love languages, right? So we know neuroscience wise that all execution actually comes out of the right side of the brain, the creative side. And like in my guy, I was going to say Socrates. Albert Einstein, the curiosity has its own reason for existence, the mysteries of life, the marvelous structure of reality. When we actually surround ourselves by imagination, and it's sad that most people stop dreaming after the age of 30. But Warren Buffett made all of his money after the age of 65. But every time I pick up a Da Vinci book or a Socrates, I'm just a bookaholic. So anytime, it's so important that we underestimate the point of R&R. Having like doing things that like fill our souls, fill our spiritual. I'm an introvert. If I do not get 2 hours of learning per day in, I turn into kind of like a bitch, really. But like that is just who I am, and because I know it, I systematize it. And if we don't give our families, our kids, the best version of ourselves, it's not like we just show up to work like, oh, I'm jumped into my work body now and this is me. No, we are the same person. And there's so many great and like amazing people, some of us that came before us, some that are with us here today, and some people that will come after us. But Marcus Aurelius is one of my faves. And he said, the greatest thing you'll ever conquer in yourself is your life. And there will be a lot of external coming at you, but the one thing that you can always control is the internal. And when we do give ourselves that time, that time where we need, like, I swear by yoga, I call it the CEO 1 hour vacation. I literally only think about like not dying like the whole time. And I actually don't think about a single thing I'm supposed to do. And then the minute I get in the car, guess what happens? My imagination opens and all the ideas that I had like thought about because I was so busy being busy wasn't like actually executing on. So that's what we coach to. It's actually in the book. We talk about family spirituality. I'm not trying to sell you on a belief system, but to put it in your calendar. Show me your calendar and I'll show you your paycheck. Time is your biggest commodity. How are you using it? Do you even know? Can you even track it? Because if you don't, my website has a very easy time of your life exercise that can. And it's very simple of simply like writing down every 15 minutes what you're doing. Keeping your calendar, update on your calendar and be honest. Then you can actually really look back and see, what is my time? Where have I been spending it? And what kind of feelings or what kind of activities are like, am I bringing joy or am I just angry all day? Ask yourself these questions because, we have to be passionate to do what we're going to do. We have to want it so freaking bad. It's not about being casual. Like, you have to want to win. But when you have that winning mindset, and defeat's normal. It happens. Like, I've lost money so many times. I mean, there was a time that, I was like suicidal. This was 2008, 2009. And back then I drank alcohol. Today I don't. I'm surrendered in 18. But defeat is the closest thing to hope. They say it's in our darkest nights that we find the light. But, when you channel and you know how to master your emotions, and we are an emotional market, and no matter what, the houses are the houses, it's the people. It's the people we need to be, and it's the people we're working with. Are we doing good for them? Are we providing them a service of value? Could we be better? Could we provide the best client experience, no matter what industry you're in? Why shouldn't that be the goal? Win-win solutions, right? So we have to be profitable or we don't keep the doors open. But when you have those win-win, we're being authentic, we're putting our money where our mouth is. Yes, we fail, and we'll tell you about our fails, because that's what collaboration's about. Just like, look at me, and, I found this quote. I thought it was really cool. Like, nobility is not being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is about being superior to your former self. And that's Ernest Hemingway. But again, it's like, we're here, agents, investors, wholesalers here that's guiding the nation. Who do we need to be and who do we want to help and in what capacity? Because there's multiple capacities. And, the artist capitalist in me gets really excited about all of those opportunities.
I think it's interesting you said that if you show me your calendar, I'll show you your check, your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that during the work, what are you saying there? Work hours, you better have like income producing activities, or are you
Mm-hmm.
saying to find that work-life balance, you have to actually plan that and put that on your calendar as well? I'm getting a lot of nods. It's all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, I teach this in my coaching, and I like say things like, the top Forbes 500 companies, they calendar sex into the calendar twice a week is the happiness metric. But no, I seriously say put date nights on there. Like, I know for me as a entrepreneur that if my employees like aren't like happy, it's really their spouses it's almost more important to keep happy. So make sure I tell them, put date nights on there, have team nights, put all your non-negotiables, right? Like for your personal life, I'm going to be at my kids' games. I'm going to work out in the morning. I'm going to have an hour of reading time at the night. I like playing tennis. I'm going to put tennis every Thursday, whatever. Put your non-negotiables of what it is to take to have a life. And hopefully you're going to build more of that personal time, and you'll have more over but action blocking, is like so important. What action, like when am I at my highest energy peak, which is usually in the morning for most people, to do this action that is like, usually it's like the stuff that you don't want to do that you need to do the most, right? So I'm going to action block that at the beginning, and I'm going to have accountability around it. So if you don't have any accountability or ownership about it, then it's not going to help. So reconcile your calendar at the end of the day. I like color coding, like pinks and purples for spiritual and family. And then like red for criticals, green for money-making activities. You can color code it however you want, but like, I just think it's very important to be visual, like have a visual, and if you took this practice, it probably takes about an hour to set up, right? And you start getting better. At the end of the day, it really should only take you about 10 minutes to reconcile your calendar and look at tomorrow's calendar. And if you can't give yourself 10 minutes to do that per day, and maybe it takes you 20 minutes the first time, then you just that you deserve what you get. It's like the same thing over and over. It's sanity.
Yeah. No. And what I think is interesting, and I think a lot of people lose sight of, frankly, is when you said non-negotiable activities on your calendar. I noticed that you said your kid's baseball game, time with your spouse. It was those. I don't think a lot of people actually see those as non-negotiable. I unfortunately see those as the things that can get pushed to the side.
Oh yeah. And then like how imaginative and productive are you going to be when you just like, your husband's like screaming and yelling at you because you guys really haven't spent time and seen each other over the last couple of months because you've both been working hard. It's like, are you going to be the best leader, business owner? Are you going to be like making those calls as good? Are you going to be as focused? Probably not. So if you're taking care of when we talk about exercise here on my team, and I have overcome an autoimmune disease holistically that was actually going to take possibly my life, ulcerative colitis. But don't take it from me. We all think that Leonardo da Vinci is pretty smart, right? But one of our core principles is keeping our bodies, our vehicles in shape, and like it's not that incredibly hard to be able to make a commitment, right? 3 times a week to go to the gym, maybe yoga. You're going to be nicer to your family and your clients, but having your physical being, this is energy. Energy is everything. And if you're not putting your health too as a priority and putting those into your calendar, like you're not going to have the energy. And how do you perform when you're exhausted, tired, burnt out, frustrated, bitter, resentful? Like probably not as high energy as you need. And simply the neuroscience and the spiritual science behind it, do it for yourself. You're going to like your future self will thank you, I promise. But yeah, it's when we talk about coaching, yes, I could talk to you about social media campaigns or, this is the latest script that's working, but we don't talk enough about the who's, the what's, the how's, the why's, like the deeper questions. And at ultimately like the ownership piece that every single individual has to take at the end of the day. And that's like who you are.
Sure. Well, just a reminder, everybody, head over to renaissancerealestateagent.com. Check out Jennifer's book. It should be out when you hear this show. And, but Jennifer, I really appreciate this time. This was a great reminder of how to achieve that work-life balance. And frankly, if anybody has any hopes of scaling, they have to take your advice regarding putting those systems in place. So, but before I let you go, is there a thought or a question you wished I would have asked you here tonight?
You said that would put me off. Is there a question? Because I'm just a philosopher at heart. But is there a question that you should have asked me?
Well, I would struggle with that as well. But one of the things that comes to mind is regarding scaling. Like, could you elaborate a little bit around once you put the processes and systems in place, how it impacted not only the time you had available for your family and personal time, but how it impacted your income?
Yeah. I pretty much had to do a PowerPoint presentation to my husband because he doesn't understand the scale of money like I do. I also believe in domestic leverage. We actually coach on domestic leverage. I was cleaning my house, and yes, I am the world's best cleaner. This is just an example of a scaling, like how I first scaled. But it's taking me 5 hours, 6 hours every weekend, and on top of clients to clean, and then I would have no time off. And then what do we just talk about? Burnout. So I actually took this from Darren Hardy, but I looked at my dollar per hour, crunched the money. I actually have a volume breakdown analysis on the site that will help break down your dollar per hour so you know what that is. So anytime you're doing a $20 per hour job, if your dollar per hour is 500, you've cost yourself $480. And then start to also replace time for R&R. So if you were to even kick back and Netflix and chill for 6 hours instead of cleaning, and you pay your cleaner 125, my dollar per hour, I just made like $5,000 by paying a cleaner. So if you're looking at people, like you're going to leverage off systems, and there's a lot of systems you can leverage. There are things you can leverage with. I'm going to outsource my CTO. I'm not going to have an in-person CTO. I'm going to outsource my CFO. But I'm going to have an integrator, and I'm going to have an integrator that oversees, at this point, divisions and silos of people, that work within each other. But if you're looking at your time as a commodity, and I actually had to do this exercise this year because my 1 year, one word of the year is cadence. I believe there's a cadence to everything. That's kind of what we're talking about here. But I knew I couldn't add anything to my calendar. Nowhere to put it. So I really had to tear it down and kind of rebuild it with that cadence. Because one thing that does not give me energy is meeting fatigue, but like in-person meetings, coaching, speaking, I do have to shoot content. So I pretty much had to tear my calendar, rebuild it to the highest producing activities for me to be doing, and taking myself out of all those things and activities and meetings that I wasn't like, it was not my highest and best use. And I've only been able to develop it through time, through my mentors, through implementation, through experience, failing along the way. But the way I look at time is, if this hour can't buy me like 10, if I'm just trading another time for money thing, it's not an upgrade. So we're looking at every year I want the next floor of problems, but everything that I need to implement needs to scale. And where I thought, I always had an abundance mindset, my mindset is constantly getting checked because we haven't seen a ceiling in real estate yet. It might not have experienced it yet, but we are in record breaking times, where you can be a real estate agent or investor and also be a serial entrepreneur while still providing a client experience if you choose to do so. And I mean, no matter how you feel about Elon Musk, the fact that what he's done, maybe he's alien, but how does that not inspire you to think bigger? And yeah, I really want to meet Elon Musk, and I am inspired by him. But yeah, it's your future self. I keep thinking it's we can only see things from our perspectives, and sometimes it's just our perspectives from the present. Sometimes it's from the past. But when we're having to try to imagine a perspective that your future self would have, and when you really think that big, you might need to think about taking more time to look at your operations on what will actually scale, because we all live with limiting beliefs and we all live with doubt, whether we are aware or not. But the more you unlock it and the bigger you can think, scaling is exciting, because we are in the technology and the intellectual revolution. So it's technology, it's mind, it's imagination, and it's in unprecedented times. So, I am a Star Trek junkie, so I can imagine go where no man has gone before, kind of a mindset.
Yeah, don't get me started on Star Trek.
Oh, don't get me started.
Next Generation. I had well, I can't tell you how many times I've watched those episodes. So
I have it in my head. I'm like Captain Kirk and Spock. They're all in my head.
Well, I want to remind everybody one last time,
Mhm.
renaissancerealestateagent.com. I'll have that link in the show notes, as well as Jennifer's links to her Instagram pages. You got quite a few followers there. I know you have your YouTube channel. I'm just going to make sure to have all those links in the show notes, reimastermind.net. So, Jennifer, I really appreciate your time. And you're welcome back anytime. I hope you'll take me up on that.
Yes, no, this was fun, and it was fun talking to you beforehand, and definitely be talking to you after. So,
So,
thank you.
sounds great.
Namaste. It truly was an honor, and appreciate the opportunity.